Hey guys, it's your boy, Ballface 8020, back again with another great commentary. So, provocative title, but I think really important questions. The reason that I'm bringing it up now is, yes, it's something that I've thought about I've come at from many different angles in the past, but I don't know if you guys saw or heard about the debate last night. I did not watch it, not because of anything against the candidates, but I just don't watch debates or really anything. I'm not interested in what people say. I'm interested in what people say about what people say. So I read the responses to the debates, but I didn't actually go to see it myself. Don't have that kind of patience or interest. But and there's political stuff we could talk about. Maybe we will talk about it later. Maybe we won't. But I was more interested in something Nikki Haley, who I think very little of. I don't like her at all. But she quoted Margaret Thatcher, who's somebody who I do respect. I mean, her politics were a lot different than mine, but it was a different time. Quoting Margaret Thatcher saying, like, if you want something said, ask a man. If you want something done, ask a woman. And that's total eye roll material, like whatever. I mean, my guess is that when Margaret said it, it was probably partially tongue in cheek. I'm certainly not offended by it. I just think it's stupid. But I mean, it brings up, so I'm seeing debates about it online. People are like, a lot of people are responding to that. A lot of guys are just saying, I'm sick of hearing this shit. Some women are defending it, whatever. And, because I've been thinking a lot about anti-feminism lately, and because I'm seeing so much of it on the right online. And so, like this video, the title, I asked two questions. One is, are women inferior to men? And two is, do women deserve to be treated? Do women deserve to be respected? Should men respect women? The short answer to both of those questions is no. No, I don't think so. And I don't think women are inferior to men. And then, should men respect women? Yes, I think yes, absolutely. Unfortunately, I think it's mostly trolling, but you do have some people on the right saying stuff like, should women have equal rights, or should women maintain the right to vote? Absolutely, women should have equal civil rights, and I do think that as long as we have universal suffrage, that women should have the same right to vote as men. Just like, women should have the right to vote, serve in office, serve on jury. To me, it's axiomatic. I don't dispute that women voting increases the power of the left, and that's a bad thing. But that doesn't mean you get rid of women voting. And actually, I would think it's kind of cowardly even to say that, because there are other demographics that are more likely to vote for left-wing parties than women as a group. So it wouldn't, for instance, should college-age educated white men have the right to vote? Because they help liberals too. So I would say I would take away their right to vote before I would take the way of women as a group, if we were going to play that game, which I don't think we should. So to me, that's not even the thing about, if you're thinking that, the thing is, I could understand from an autistic standpoint how somebody could say something like that, but saying that women shouldn't have the same rights as men, that's like, even when I was a diehard anti-feminist, I didn't really believe that. Like, the idea didn't offend me per se, but I didn't agree with that, because it just never sat right with it to me. Because let's say let's for the sake of argument, that women are inferior to men. Well, a lot of groups are inferior to other groups, if you want to go down that road. So what? The whole point, the idea is that we're all equal under the law, right? Not we all have equal value, even if don't have equal abilities. So, the say of a woman is just as important as the say of a man. To me, that's axiomatic. Again, from an autistic standpoint, I get how you dispute that. But even if you want to lessen the power of liberals, I agree with that, but not at any cost. And I don't think it would, even on a practical level, I don't think it would be workable. But I think we're kind of getting off topic here. So, but what I'm more interested in is the stuff that I think really are a substantial question. Like, first is, are women inferior to men? And two is, do women deserve respect? For a long time, I did believe that women were inferior to men. And I genuinely don't anymore. And I'm going to be totally honest with you. It doesn't give me any pleasure to say that. I liked it better when I thought that women were inferior to men. Um, I would rather believe that, and I just don't. So, like I don't have like any, like any reason to lie or to virtue signal or anything. Um, the when I thought that women were inferior to men, I guess maybe I was a little autistic about it myself. My point of view was always, okay, men and women are equal, right? We have equal abilities. That's basically what they're saying. Uh, are men taller? Do men have more upper body strength? And they say yes, yes. Okay, well then we're not equal, right? Because if we're equal in every way, except men have more upper body strength and are taller, then men are by definition better than women, right? Because you're equal in everything except for two things where men are better than. And you can say, well, those things don't matter, or those are, there's a lot of variance within the groups. No, I'm not disputing that. I'm not saying every man is better than every woman, but I'm saying that men as a group in that case would be superior to women, right? If we're equal in every single other way. And and then what I tried to say around this, because you talk to people about this and they have a hard time understanding it. They say, I definitely, even back when I was super anti-feminist, I said, like, now in terms of worth, men and women have equal worth, but as a class, men are objectively better because we're taller, we carry more lean body mass, and we're stronger. So if we're equal in every other way, then how are we not better? Unless you'd have to find, the only way you could make a case is if you found some way that women were better than men in. And in terms of, like physical things, I can't think of any. But if you look at everything, you can understand where the idea has come from. Men are bigger, men are physically stronger, and it's really not that close. Like, now in terms of height, women can kind of compete with with men on height for some things, but when it comes to upper body strength, there's really not much comparison. Like, even like a pretty frail grown adult male is stronger than like over 90% of women. And again, you could say upper body strength's not that important, and I'd agree with that, but it is a pretty big distinction. And men also have, superior spatial intelligence and stuff. And again, these are all, this is frustrating, right? Because people are always like, and particularly women, will like to argue like, well, I'm a woman and I have great spatial intelligence, or I'm a woman and I'm really tall, or I'm a woman and I'm really strong. Yes, no, I get that. Nobody's disputing that. Nobody's saying that we're just saying like purely on a group level. We're just saying that like the men in the aggregate versus women in the aggregate. And, this is what's so problematic about this idea of gender roles and women should do this or men should do that, is because there's so much variance within the groups. So to say something like, women don't make good plumbers. Like, yes, well, women in the aggregate probably don't have as much aptitude for being a plumber as a man does. But a lot of women out there have a lot more aptitude for being a plumber than most men. So there is that kind of variance. But, just here we're just talking about aggregate versus aggregate. So I think that both sides of the debate can take things, can come to conclusions that don't make sense. Especially, like you said, we got this new anti-feminism on the right that I really strongly disagree with. Say women shouldn't do this, women aren't cut out for this, blah, blah, blah. And I just don't think that's true. Again, absolutely. Like I used to program, right? Are most women going to be good computer programmers? No. Neither are most men. If you were going to find a group of good programmers, like, you're going to have a group that it's going to be very strongly male. Like if you have 100 good programmers, it's going to be like 70% male, 30% female. And when you get to like the top 10% of that group, it's going to be like 9 men to 1 woman. But what about that 1 woman or those 30 other women? They're good programmers, because most female programmers were better programmers than me because I sucked at it. so, so yeah, but anyway, we're getting back to the whole, like, so it's aggregate versus aggregate. I think I've made that clear. And yes, if you want to talk about stuff like that, like aptitude towards pretty much anything except being a mother, maybe some customer service roles, but the things that we value as society, like the high status jobs in society. And this has been pointed out before. Men tend to dominate those fields, and men probably do have more aptitude in those fields. Which doesn't mean that there's women who can't do it, and also which doesn't mean that the women who can do it and try to do it don't face tremendous amount of discrimination because they are women in those fields. And then that's really wrong, and that's a problem, and that's why it's important for women in these fields to support each other, and for men who do believe that all people should be treated equally, or treated fairly, how about that, regardless of gender or race or anything, to support them too. I don't necessarily think it's as bad today as it was in the past, but in the past it was bad. There was a lot of discrimination. There was a lot of sexual harassment. And that was totally unacceptable, and it's good that we got past that. As a middle class white guy, American white guy, I feel, some, like, a fair amount of guilt, not like too much, but some guilt about how Black people were historically treated in America. I just feel bad about it. I maybe more feel bad about it than guilt, although I guess I probably do feel some guilt about it. But it's nothing compared to the guilt and shame I feel about how men have historically treated women, and in some cases, still do in other parts of the world. Like, I think it's just so disgusting. Even the mild stuff, like, shutting women out of, certain, like, occupations and stuff. I think that's awful. And, but that doesn't even get to the stuff that's happened in other countries. And now in the West, granted, in the West, women actually have historically been treated decently, not fairly, but mostly they've been treated, decently. I don't think the really bad stuff that happened to women because they were women was the witch stuff, where women were more likely to get burned at the stake. And that's horrible. That's horrible. But, people, like, I don't view that just as, like, women were in on it too, on the whole accusing witches thing. It was horrible. It was wrong. But I think there was more to it than just trying to oppress women. I think it's just, it's just a really unfortunate thing that happened in the past. But anyway, so, like, even though I do think that, like I said, men are better in the aggregate in the things that we most value as a society. And that includes things like height and upper body strength, because you can say that stuff doesn't matter. Okay, you're right, it doesn't matter. But guess what? Society values those things. And but also in, like, even in something like intelligence, I actually do think that on average, men probably do have a slightly higher IQs than women. It's not huge, but I do think it's probably there. And then on top of that, you have the idea of the Y chromosome is where nature experiments. So because of that variance, you see a lot more guys at the bottom and a lot more guys at the top. So you're just going to see the genius is a product of variance. So you're going to see more male geniuses, even if the IQs were the same. I don't think that they are, but even if they were the same. But if that was the case, I don't know if you can really say that's superior or whatever. Like, because, the double X's are going to have more stability, so they're going to produce less retards, for lack of a better word, and less literal retards. But the thing is, like, again, like, as a society, we kind of value the existence of geniuses. So the fact that, there are more male geniuses is going to confer some, sense of superiority. So, saying all those things, it's like, you might think, well, Baldface 80/20, it sounds like you do think that men are superior to women. No, I don't. I think there's some things that society value that men are better than in the aggregate. It's just that I don't really value those things anymore. What I mean, those things are all nice. I'm all for them, but I'm more interested in stuff like empathy, compassion. I know maybe I don't come off that way, but that's really, what comes down to, what I judge. And even stuff like courage. And oh my God, I hate saying this, but I think women are better at those things. And it kills me to say that. Um, the There's no like comparison, like especially in courage, like there's no comparison, like a mother who's protecting her children to like really any man. Like a mother who's protecting her children will do anything, go way beyond like what any man will do, for courage. Um, the Now granted that instinct does need to be triggered, but even other than that, sometimes you'll see women show a lot of bravery. I think that women, maybe they come off as not as brave sometimes because they're more likely to get emotionally overloaded and start crying and shutting down. But that's not really lack of courage, that's just like biology taking over. Because I've had the same type of thing happen where like sometimes I won't even be that nervous, but just agitated, and then I've got a physical tremor. You can probably even tell that the camera's shaking, and I'm just always shaking. Like that's just something that's genetic. And if I get nervous, it starts going haywire, like nervous or agitated or whatever. It goes haywire, and it gets really bad. But that's just biology. It doesn't mean I'm scared or anything. So honestly, I think in the things that really matter, women are better than men. And it's like in Judaism, they say that, in this world, men have a higher status than women. But in the next world, women are going to have higher status than men, because in the next world, it's not going to be about things like physical strength or, stoicism, not real stoicism, but a stoic personality and shit like that. What's going to be more important is things like empathy and compassion and stuff like that. So it depends what you value. So no, I don't think that men are superior to women. I think if anything, women are better than men. And I hate saying both of those things. I really wish it wasn't true, but it's just how I feel. And then should men respect women? Yeah, I think that men should respect women because, it's easy to, just think of women as a class, as like some kind of other. But, most of us, and now some of us don't, and that, for them it's going to be a little bit different, but most of us do have women in our own lives who we really do like and respect and have been important for us. Maybe we wouldn't even be here without them. Well, literally, we wouldn't be here without our mothers. And, so just like we respect them and would want them to always be treated fairly, we should, treat, they're no different than any other woman. So, it's just like, if we really respect them, we should respect all women. Like, how would you feel if, like, some of the women who were close to you were like, if the shoe was on the other foot, they thought men was inferior, and were like, oh yeah, men are garbage, men are inferior, but my son or my nephew or my cousin or my father, he's okay, but in general, like you'd still be insulted, right? So no, I think that absolutely, absolutely, I think women are entitled to the same respect as men. I think that maybe the whole idea of respecting women gets a bad rap because we associate it with this idea that, like, oh, you're saying women are just, because they do this. Like, they'll say, like, women are just as physically strong as men. We see it in pop culture. Like, men are, like a hear me roar women can go and beat the crap out of 10 guys. Or women are even smarter than men and only don't succeed because the man holds them back. Blah, blah, blah. And, and this is one thing I want to say, that even now, even with all the change, my feelings towards, like, I do think that, I do look back at feminism as differently now. I do think that, whereas I was always kind of disliked, even from the beginning, the early things of like women's rights and stuff, I do think that, would I have liked the suffragettes back in the 1850s or early 1900s? Probably not. I probably would have thought they were all a bunch of cunts, but, and they probably were. But the thing is, regardless of what I think about them, they, maybe that's what was needed to get through. Maybe that, like, and I absolutely respect what they did. And I'm happy that they did it to get rights for women, so women could be treated fairly. Um, you know, feminism comes in three waves. The first wave was, the whole original right to vote wave. The second wave was the shit from the 60s, 50s, 60s, and 70s. And the third wave is the modern stuff. My introduction was to the modern stuff. I don't know if any of the websites are still around, but like Feministing, Jezebel, Pandagon, that third wave feminism deserves no respect whatsoever. It's complete garbage. It has no redeeming features. Literally none. There is nothing good about it. Any woman who is a third wave feminist, you can dismiss anything else she has to say on any other subject. She's a complete waste of time. Write her off. There are women, though, who are not third wave feminists. In fact, they're not feminists at all, who will still say very feministy stuff. And I would say the same thing. You just dismiss them. Like, anytime a woman starts with any type of girl power shit, I stop. I immediately tune off. I stop listening. You'll see this in, discussions about TV shows or stuff like you'll see it online. People saying like, oh, well, he's just being like a misogynistic guy or blah, or discriminating or she's a woman. Pretty much any complaints that modern Western women make should be dismissed out of hand. Like, you shouldn't even listen to it. And so, like, in fact, even now, even though I think the early feminist movement was very important, a woman even using the F word, it stops. Like, everything, like, I don't listen to anything else. Now, I don't think she should be allowed to spout her feminist nonsense, but I'm not going to listen. And I don't respect it, and I won't respect it, and I won't respect her. But that's because I won't respect her as an individual, as a person, not I won't respect her because she's a woman. So no, right now, no, I would say that like there's today now there are women's issues in other countries that are very important. And even today, I think it's important that women be mindful of their issues to ensure that they're being treated fairly. And we see this a lot with the pro-choice stuff. I am very pro-choice, obviously. I don't really think that, I think that pro-choice people tend to kind of overestimate how much misogyny motivates the pro-life movement. There's a lot of women in the pro-life movement. I don't respect the pro-life movement at all, but I don't think it's really about oppressing women. Actually, you know what? Let me rephrase that. Yes, I do. I do think there is something to it. I don't think that's the main thing for most people. But like, I don't have a problem. Like, if you can be pro-life if you want. I don't care. I'm just not pro-life. And then, but I understand, like, that's like a really legitimate gripe, whether women have that bodily autonomy or not. Which isn't to say that an elective abortion is murder. The women who get elective abortions are disgusting whores. Okay, nothing good to say about them. Nothing good to say about the doctors who perform elective abortions. What I'm saying is that I don't want the government deciding what's elective and what's medically necessary, especially not this government. The thing is that you trust people to make their own decisions. You hope they make the right one. You understand that sometimes they're going to make the wrong one, and that's that. But there's no, I don't believe in trying to. I believe that the woman's right to bodily autonomy, to me, supersedes the child's right to live. Now, morally, that may not be the case. In fact, morally, I'll say the opposite. And morally, from a moral perspective, I would say the child's right to live supersedes her bodily autonomy. But that's just a moral judgment. Legally, I don't think they should be the same thing. And I know that there's a connection between legality and morality, but they're not always the same thing, and they shouldn't always be. And I think this is one case where it makes a lot more sense to err on the side of bodily autonomy. But anyway, I'm getting off topic again. So on the subject of pro-choice, I would agree that is a woman's issue. But other than that, and I know that's a big one, but other than that, women really are treated fairly in the West. Now, again, in some blue-collar professions, this is kind of like it is with race. Like, are black people discriminated against in finance or in law? No. But are they discriminated against in blue collar positions like truck driving and stuff like that? Well, they at least have to deal with it. I don't know, like how, like it's at least an issue there. And I don't how big it is. I couldn't tell you, but I know it exists. Unless things have really changed in the last 15 years. But women, I would say the same thing. White collar stuff, not really. Other than maybe programming, where most guys are so autistic they have no problem working with autistic women. There might be some of it, but for the most part, I don't think it's too big a deal. So, like, I mean, yeah, they should fight for their issues there, but really, I don't care. I don't want to hear about it. You go do it by yourself. It's not my responsibility, and I don't really care if you're facing some discrimination. But in the blue collar, in the trades and stuff, I think it probably still is a problem, and I think that's wrong, and that women should continue to work together and fight to make sure they're treated fairly. For women who go into the trades are treated fairly. But for the most part, women in the West, while they maybe aren't always treated fairly, they're generally treated respectfully and humanely. And that's what's most important. In the rest of the world, that's not always the case. And I do think it's important that everybody, not just women, try to make sure that women all over the world, are treated right. But, and I know that it's difficult. We don't have necessarily a ton of say over what happens in places like Afghanistan and stuff. But, I mean, like I said, when you do see stuff like what happens in Afghanistan, I just feel so ashamed. I feel so ashamed. And, that men would do that, because I guarantee you, if the shoe was on the other foot, that if women were the stronger, more dominant sex, that they would never treat us that way. And, it's stuff like that makes me think maybe women really are superior to men. But anyway, that's all for now, and I'll see you in the next.